Hello, everyone. It's Matchbook Horse Racing podcast time. We've got an excellent team assembled for you to take you through some really good racing this weekend, including a fiendishly difficult but typically good-looking renewal of the Premier Handicap Hurdle, which has a new name this year. 2 miles, half a furlong. That's a 3:35 at Newbury. We'll get there. The excellent team amassed, as you can see, is at Racing Lee Gibson, Charlie Poste. I've forgotten your Twitter handle. Sorry, Charlie. And at Over and Clear, Dan Overall. Is it just at Charlie Poste?
I thought you're taking the piss, yeah.
Oh, it is at Charlie.
Yeah.
I forgot it. I got at Racing Lee and I got at Over and Clear, and I forgot yours, Charlie. Right. How did you get that, Charlie? You must have got that in about 2010.
No, I was a fairly late comer to Twitter or X, but I just think there's probably no one else with my name, maybe.
But how? I'm stunned at that. If there are any other Charlie Posts out there, please get in touch.
Yeah.
You got a chance of getting on the podcast, I'll be honest.
Big chance.
So please get in touch. We'd love to hear from any other Charlie Posts out there. In fact, anybody else that shares a name with any of our pundits or me, just get in touch. We want some friends, and it's something to talk about. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Why would you, given the start of this podcast? But it makes it easier for you to take in all of our podcasts across all sports. It's the best no-cost way of supporting all of our content. We're racing still to 6,000 YouTube subscribers. We're currently 5.95 thousand. So we've had an extra 500 since last week. I tell you what, we are going up in the world. So please like and subscribe on YouTube to help us get to 6,000. And our Dublin Racing Festival review is out now in the Cheltenham Trail. That's episode 5 of the Cheltenham Trail with Matt Toombs and Dom McLean. Okay, let's kick off. 3 mile handicap hurdle, first of all. That's at Newbury. And Lee, I thought I was going to be the only one with the 4/6s, but you found this one at a big price as well, 26.0. I'm sure you can make a more coherent case than me. Take it away.
Yeah, just going back to snippets of form. Started off actually beating Senior Chief, who we've seen win at the October meeting there. Beat If I Was a Rich Man, who tipped up in a grade 3 behind Lecky Watson just recently. If you go back, actually was ahead of Dan's choice, Santos Blue, by 6 lengths on debut for this yard. Was ahead of the likes of Jaguar when behind Punta de l'Est. There's plenty of form in there. I just thought was way overpriced for an informed yard. I think 26.0, you can get the win place there on the matchbook. I think that's huge. I think, plenty of form. The step up and triple be no problem. James Bowen takes the ride. Look, 2 failed attempts, let's say, at chasing, but reverts back to hurdle. And I think that's a good move. Was in the 4-runner chase behind Iberico Lord, the one that Gidley Park pulled up in. We can write that off. Last time out was going well, 4 lengths ahead, tipped up again. I just think reverting back, going up and trip for an informed yard, 26.0, I think is very fair.
Yeah, my sort of starting point was just to look for a big old price in this. Nothing against the horses that are progressing toward the top of the market, the likes of Shut Up Shirley, Haiti Kalor, Magical King probably stayed last time. But there were a couple of big prices that interested me. The 4/6s was one of them. I thought if you go back to the last run over hurdles at the back end of last year, he's sort of priced up on the chase runs, really. And I don't get it. It's £2 higher than the last start at Ayr. Should never be that price. And the other one is the old Harry Derham first time, Ballygriffin Cottage. Now, I know that hasn't necessarily worked out, but honestly, the horses have been really out of form. Somebody mentioned to me in November that towards the back end of November they were worried about how they were running, and I think that's how it transpired. Because bar Washington, the horses were not going out and running as the market was expected. They're back on song now, and this Ballygriffin Cottage again. If you go back to the pick of the hurdles form, then 1-3-2 is realistic. He's put the blinkers on. It's just a bit of a dart at 21.0, but one I'm definitely happy to have on side. Charlie Poste.
Yeah, I just finished watching Yellowstone as well, the last few episodes. So as in the 4/6s, I can see that, definitely. Bit of useless information there. But shut up. Are you a Yellowstone fan, Tom, or not?
No, I've not. This is a series, is it?
Yeah, you need to get into this. Yeah. While you're away in Dubai in the sunshine, away from the kids, it could be your next project. Say if you go to the bar every night or something like that.
No, honestly, my wife would really love to be updated on me just sat in a hotel room watching Yellowstone while she's She that would make her really happy.
Hour by hour, play by play, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Shirley for me at the top of the market. I went through this, and obviously the Rebecca Curtis horse, it's being used as a tee up for the novice handicap chase. What was the National Hunt Chase at the festival. And I just thought Shut Up Shirley is an 8-year-old, but only had the 9 starts. Came back from an awfully long layoff over 2 years to win at Fontwell on Boxing Day. Did that impressively, granted in weaker company, but I didn't, the £8 rise could have been worse. And just low mileage, and there's no reason to think that he isn't still firmly on the upgrade for all that he's an 8-year-old. He can't help that he missed 2 years of his career. And yeah, that was good enough for me, because I thought plenty of these were exposed and looked at the top end of their marks.
Okay. That's Shut Up Shirley for Charlie.
Nice.
Definitely intentional.
Peter says, morning all, still recovering from Dublin Racing Festival. I'm sure you are, Peter, and Dan overall probably is as well, but you can give us your selection. You actually look quite fresh, Dan.
Remarkably so. Yeah, it was a great weekend on many accounts, and my freshness being one of those great results. Santos Blue for me, I think I would definitely agree with Charlie that a lot of these look towards the top end of their handicap mark, and he would definitely be one of them. What I do like about him, though, he is a proper trier, and he is still relatively unexposed at this trip. Most of his starts over 2.5 miles. Only 2 tries at this trip, where he was narrowly beaten by Broadway Boy a couple of seasons ago. That form obviously worked out quite well. And then he went to the really competitive Stairs Handicap Hurdle at Haydock. Not this season, the season before. I think it had Crambo in it that year. It had the Emmett Mullins horse, who was an absolute blip on the handicap. And he was only beaten 8 lengths there. I think that was a very fair effort. And he ran really well last time at Hereford. You look at Hereford, small field race, you think, what's that form really going to be worth? But the winner was a really well-backed, in-form rival from a yard that were going really well, who made all tactics that worked well around Hereford. And the third was Knight of Allen, who's run some really good races in deep handicaps this season. He was quite well beaten back in third. So I thought that was just a sign that this horse is still in decent form. And he's really shown a liking for galloping tracks, which I imagine was going to lend itself quite well to this assignment. He's one of the likes of Weatherby and Utoxeter. He's had a good run at Aintree. So I think this type of track really suits him. I'd say this is the easiest test at this kind of trip. And while I say I don't think he's got masses in hand, I think the step up to 3 miles again might eke out a bit more improvement. I just think he's a solid win and place proposition.
All right, that's the opening one done, and some big old prices as well. I will mention Dale, who's talking about going to Musselburgh and says he loves the course and will do Musselburgh again. Great course and great layout. I thought the 2 meetings were really perfect together, incidentally, although I didn't go near geographically either of them. Okay, let's move on to a race we should probably all be leaving alone, which is the Denman Chase, but only Dan is doing the sensible thing. I'm quite embarrassed to read out the horses that we're putting up between us, to be honest. First of all, Lee, you can make your case for Hitman. I look at Dan. You smug so-and-so. Right, go on, Lee. Take it away. Because a lot.
This is going to be a few minutes of time. I'm going to be shaking my head a lot.
I know a lot of people respect Lee's opinion, but you've basically lost all credibility here. Lee.
Well, look, it was almost a process of elimination, to be honest. I don't think Gallo quite stays the trip there, in my opinion. I think, look, he was pulled out the Cleve Hurdle there the other day on account of soft ground. They do have a bit juice in the ground. They've got snow about. We'll see how that gets in. I think he's a 2.5 mile handicapper, and I wiped him off, to be honest. There's a few with the older brigade. Look, I got it down to Hitman and Brave Man's Game, but Brave Man's Game did disappoint in the King George. Look, he was well beat, but it was a tough King George to be competing in. Prior to that, he had been behind Royal Picay and Great Dawning. Maybe that just took it out of him. But yeah, Hitman, he's won at Newbury. He's been here for the last 3 seasons at this meeting. He was third in a Game Spirit. He's been second in this race twice. Last year to Shishkin, he's been ahead of Protectorat, who's a runaway fleur-de-lis winner and a Ryanair winner. He's placed in an Old Rowan Trace. I just thought he was the best of a bad bunch, let's say, and I think this is his Gold Cup, as they like to say. Yeah, look, going for 3rd time lucky in the race, I'll take Hitman to knock out Brave Man's Game.
Okay, my starting point, Charlie, was to take on Brave Man's Game. I agree with what you said about Jello. If you're eliminating horses, then I've got to eliminate Hitman, who has been beaten twice, and I just don't think he's good enough. Le Patron with the penalty, that's going to be tough. Galore doesn't jump well enough. Sam Brown's 55. Eldorado Allen, I rated 147 now. I can't believe he's good enough for his one at before. I just came back to Brave Man's Game. Tongue tie on, ground hopefully going to be good to soft. Loves this track, runs really well here, and I just wonder if they've readjusted their sort of spring campaign targets, if you like, and I think he'll be fully revved for this. They just want to get a win into this horse. The real whacker wasn't a bad run at Weatherby, and that Betfair Chase run was beating 12 lengths and almost rallying. I just think that's the best bit of form on offer by quite a long way. So, Charlie, Brave Man's Game at 3.25. I've come round to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. As in, I just like you, I was like, I want to take him on, and then I just went through it all. And the fact that he has no penalty as well, it just kind of seemed pretty obvious in the end. Like there's non-stayers in there, horses that don't want to win, and horses that can't win because of age or ability. And he's a formerly top-class chaser that, as you say, he ran okay at Weatherby. I thought he ran fine at Haydock behind Royal Pagaille and Grey Dawning. And yeah, the King George run was a bit disappointing, but it was a lot deeper than this. And I thought, like you say, Paul Nicholls is going to have him absolutely tuned to try and get the win on the board. And look, if he did win, he'd probably end up at entry beyond that. But yeah, I thought 3.25 was absolutely fine. I had no issues with that. And yeah, I came round to almost thinking I'm pretty bloody strong on him. Well, I am, definitely.
Good. Dale says if Brave Man's Game doesn't win, he needs to go on the beach at Blackpool with the donkeys, or has that stopped nowadays? I mean, there are other aftercare sources available, Dale, definitely. Yes. The BHA and the industry has done a lot of work in that area. So yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Dale. Thanks, everyone, for those really strong cases on two really solid sorts. We move on to the game Spirit. This is the 3 o'clock. I guess, look, I don't think anyone's making Sergino an actual bet. Or Lee, you haven't put no bet with Sergino at 1.5. I mean, I guess if you look at it, the horse is 1.67 against Majborough in the Arkle. So I don't know. Maybe you're saying that this price is fair enough. What do you think?
No, I probably should have put no bet, but like,
okay, great.
Look, he is the biggest test, I would have said, for the Arkle. This is much more competitive than what Marjwa was competing against last weekend. He's in the open company where it's greater performers, seasoned pros almost, who could run. Some of these could run fourth and a fifth in a champion chase and pick up pieces. Whereas the ones in behind Marjborough the other day, I don't think could do that. This is his biggest test, but I think he'll pass it with flying colours. I think that they won it with Sprinter Sacra and Altio doing the same route. Kempton, here at Newbury, onto the Arkle. I think they'll win this, and I think they'll go on to win the Arkle.
Yeah, Dan, just get your thoughts on the Arkle quickly while we're talking about it. I think we might as well. Obviously, Majborough, the chief market rival. We're going to see Load of Sud in action at Warwick, and we'll come to that. But can you see past Sergino in any way at this stage?
Poor Load of Sud. The standard setter for so long, and he's almost an afterthought. This is as is the quality of the 2X juveniles. I think it shows you what a clash we're in for. I mean, I don't think Sergino's a certainty. I think what Majborough's doing, despite almost looking still a bit immature to a certain extent, at least to the way he attacks his fences. And what the data suggests is Majborough is actually surprisingly quick over his fences, despite, I say, the reaction at the DRF every time he got in close to a fence was like he just made the world's largest error. It was quite extraordinary to be watching it there. But Majborough is a completely live threat. He's shown a turn of foot that I haven't anticipated. And despite almost looking a bit awkward, he's still powering away. I think Sergino's the right favourite. This is ultimately going to be a massive test for him. This is against some proper horses and likes of Matata. If Edwardstone goes forward here, this is going to be a proper pace and be a real litmus test for where he's at. But what we've seen so far, I don't think there's any reason to doubt Sergino is a top-level horse, whereas these are probably more Grade 2 level these days. So, yeah, I think at the minute, the Arkle shaking would be a great clash. I wouldn't really like to be going either way at the minute at the prices. I think they're about right. We'll see if that changes after Saturday.
Okay. I'm going to leave it there on that because there's no official bets going up in that contest, unsurprisingly. I think we move on to the 3:35, 2 miles half a furlong. So William Hill hurdle, give it its full name because it's the richest handicap hurdle in Britain, Premier Handicap. And Secret Squirrel is towards the top of the betting. I don't think anyone is going for this horse. No, well, I just want to say one thing on this because it's not something I'd say on TV, but I can definitely get away with saying it on the Matchbook Betting podcast. If you look at Secret Squirrel's breeding, the horse is by stimulation out of trigger point. And they've done very well naming this horse, I think, because if you Google Secret Squirrel sexual term, it's very, very enlightening. So I think that's well worth everyone doing. Maybe
I think you get away with that on racing TV.
And having a good old, definitely, this is not, it's beautifully named. And it's not got enough attention, in my opinion. Okay. And if any of you know without looking what Secret Squirrel is, then fair play, Charlie Post, you look like you do. Anyway, let's move on. Charlie, on that, you can make your case, please, for this race.
I'm just looking forward to you and Dave Neverson having a conversation about this. As in, I think this could be just what racing TV needs to lighten everything up.
It basically is another term is busting a nut. Anyway, look it up, Charlie. Who do you like in this and why?
I like the Nicky Henderson horse Joyeuse, as in, I thought that the second at Cheltenham on her last start was a very good run. She wasn't suited by the slow tempo that time, and stayed on very well. But the third horse of Dan Skelton's is a Grade 2 winner subsequently. Looks like she has bags of toe. I don't think the drop back in trip will be a problem. Train has a very good record in this. The profile is right, and like I said, that there is boodles of pace in this. So I don't think the race setup should be perfect. I thought at 7.0, yeah, she was very attractive to me for all that I would have liked to have found something bigger in the market, but I thought she was blindingly obvious.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie completely on the pace setup here. There are lots of pace angles. Mirabad, Josh the Boss, Orkan Risk, Archamp, all confirmed front runners. Loads of others that like to be prominent. And that's kind of the argument for Beat the Bat in a certain extent. I think also what's going to need to be required is the ground's going to need to be more testing than it currently is. But there is about 8 mil of rain due before the race. So I think there's reasons to believe this could turn into a relative test of stamina at the trip, which is what he needs. I mean, this is still a relatively unexposed horse who showed loads of promise as a novice hurdler last season before his campaign was cut short in December. He reappeared at Haydock, where he ran a great race behind Steel Ally, then dropped back in trip at Windsor. And I just thought he hated the track that day. Pushed along a kind of vital stage where he was caught in a pack, didn't really get any kind of run, stayed on, only beating 8 lengths, despite clearly, I think, not favouring the conditions of that race at all. And the yard had been in and out all season. The fact that he hadn't run since Haydock, despite being many decent targets in the interim between then and Windsor, maybe suggests he'd be one of those who hadn't had the easiest of campaigns. I think the stiffer kind of test at 2 miles on softer ground, I think this is going to be right up his street. I just can see him staying on where others, potentially if there is a strong pace, are starting to fade out of it. He's got confirmed stamina for further. So around 26.0, I thought he was a decent price.
Yeah, Beat the Bat, looking to really continue the theme where we started the race. Lee, you like the horse as well and another?
I've actually went with both the lads' selections. I think Joyeuse has got a solid chance. Like Charlie says, the form's been franked by Take No Chances, then going and beating Cargis at Ascot. The winner, 6 from 6, Woohooed of Gordon Elliott, is a 2-time listed winner. I like Royal Margot, who was in 4th that day. I thought Joyeuse travelled well, can come forward for that and lightly raced. And same as Dan says, look, he Beat the Bat. The yard form is temper and enthusiasm, I would have said, but can stay on and like Dan says, plenty of pace in the race. I would give a quick shout as well to Manila Missile. Drops back in trip, was a point winner. Bagged a Grade 2 just on second start, but I thought travelled fair enough at Windsor. Just the rustiness faded out. He's a big price too, but yeah, the two that the lads mentioned, I think have got solid chances.
I'm going for a couple of fair prices. Fiercely Proud, I thought, was priced up a bit disrespectfully on a line through the form with Cabral du Mathan with Secret Squirrel. I thought that Fiercely Proud, ran a pretty good hard race from the front last time. This can be a race where that suits. There was a period where it went through a period of being standing starts. they might. I don't know if they've moved the start now slightly, just because they used to come in between hurdles, and it meant that quite often there'd be a full start. I think you get another chance for a jig jog in, so that might not happen. But it is a race where the pace can hold up pretty well. But I thought Fiercely Proud, we know how he's going to run, and I thought he was a big price based upon the Cabral de Mathan form. The other one is Go Dante, third in the race last year, off £1 lower, I think it was. The form was good since then. Look, he's just massively out of form. I totally get that, but and I know that Charlie's making the point to me off air while the yards horses are running really well, so you've got to explain that. But I thought at 34.0 he was well worth having on side, because he's very capable on his day, and I didn't want to leave him untouched for this, given how well he ran in the race last year. Very much a win and place selection. Okay, moving on to Warwick. We've got the Kingmaker first of all. We are no bet in this, aren't we? But just while we've touched on the Arkle market, did you have anything to add, Charlie, on Loda Sud in there? Who's basically, if Loda Sud goes and bolts in here, he's 13.0 for an Arkle, and we know that's where he's going to go. I mean, is that offensive, or can he not lay a glove on Sergino and Madgeborough?
Look, is it offensive? It probably is a little bit harsh on what he has done, certainly over fences, but I suppose it just is testament to the esteem that the other two are held in. I mean, for me, I just think Sergino, he just wins. I mean, touch wood, he looks a rock solid jumper. His technique is great. He's tactically.
Okay, you're right. As Dan was saying, he was the boy in this division, and then Sergino was confirmed as going chasing. All right, let's move on from that, because I think anyone making Loda Sud a bet. We come to the Mares Hurdle. Lee, you can take it away with the Mullins horse at the top of the market, 2.5.
Yeah, look, she's a dual grade one. When she actually beat Lossiemouth in a spring juvenile there a couple of seasons ago at the DRF. She struggled against Lossiemouth in the Triumph, but she ended up at O'Toole in a grade one. And look, she was in the wilderness last season. That was a 5-year-old campaign. She did end up being second to Lossiemouth at the back end of the season at Punchestown. She's got the layoff, but I just think she's got maybe it's the legs of these two currently, because they've been out of form. Her two market rivals, West Balboa, went chasing, didn't work, come back hurdling, hasn't done anything since. And you wear it well. She started off well. She was second to Telepathic, who won yesterday. But last time out was very disappointing. I'd be disappointed if Corgis could. The Mayor Willie Mullins there couldn't get over the line. To be honest, there, I would be disappointed if Colin Marceau couldn't bag it this one.
Charlie.
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that. I mean, there are a lot of people disappointed with Cargate in mind at Ascot, so as Lee mentioned there. But I just look, it's not a strong selection for me. I put West Balboa up, cheap piece on for the first time. Has had a couple of runs back over hurdles now, as Lee said, after chasing didn't work out. Harry back on board, local track to them. I'd say that they would see this as a must win for her with regards to her season, because I can't see that many opportunities for her beyond this. And it's just not a deep race, is it? You wear it well with the penalty, you'd think might struggle. So you're left as a match. And with West Balboa runs under the belt and going just down the road from the yard, I thought was a marginal selection for me, but it wouldn't be strong by any stretch of the imagination.
We've got a bit of a team in the veterans, which is Lamilos for you lot. So on that, I'll kick off with making the case for Smarty Wild, which I thought was pretty obvious. Needed the reappearance run off a mile off at Haydock, and then I thought ran with Promise last time. Is 9.0. Did I put 9.0? And the yard are having a great season. So the more I looked at it, the sort of more confident I got in that race and the profile of the horse. I'd have been more worried if we hadn't seen obviously what we saw last time at Market Raisin. I know the horse was well beaten on that occasion, but also the pace held up pretty well there too, and he was the only one to get involved from off it. Eldorado Allen, Sam Brown, Copperhead, all around him were right up there. I thought he ran a lot better than the market gives him credit for here at 9.0. So Smarty Wild for me. Right, who's most confident Lamilos, do we think? Just one of you jump in if you're very confident.
Yeah, I'd be fairly optimistic. I've been keeping an eye on him all season. I do have to say I did have Smarty Wild down as the danger, so completely agree with you there. I think he'll be the one staying on, coming from off the pace as his run style. But I've been keeping an eye on Lamilos from the start of the season, ever since it was very heavily implied that last season was a bit of a write-off and that he'd need probably 1 or 2 runs earlier this year just to get him ready. And it's very much looked like that. He was then tied again under Newbury on his second start under a very forceful ride. Then over the Christmas period, he was behind a horse I love in Lowry's Bar when dropped back into around this trip. Ran really well, I thought. That was a completely creditable run. We didn't actually see all that much. But he's now dropped £8 for 3 runs to a mark 139. Obviously, his last win was the Ladbrokes Trophy after mark 146. He's undoubtedly well handicapped, and I think he's shown more than enough this season to suggest that there is enough still there to win at least a race like this. I think we'll probably get the typical skeleton ride around Warwick. It will be aggressive. Now, there are pace angles in the race. Obviously, Ed is the Jeep being the main one, Keldastan another. So I'm not sure it will be completely beneficial to go toe-to-toe with a horse like Editor to Geet for the lead. But I think he'll be there positively. I think it would be just in behind where Editor to Geet will probably end up failing. I'd like to see some positive market signals for him because you can never be entirely sure when the day is going to be. But I do think there's a day in Lamilos and he's dropped to a mark into a race. I just can't ignore him.
All right. Charlie, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 18.5 grand to the winner. Dan Skelton is all out to try and win a trainer's title. So it's a prize well worth winning. As Dan says, he's very well handicapped. The drop in trip, actually, he ran very well at Chepstow on his last run. The combo, Dan and Harry, are very effective around here. As Dan said, I'm sure there'll be speed on early. Harry will be handy. You could see him setting them alight halfway down the back over the fences down the back straight as they come quick. Try and put the others under pressure. Turn it into as more of a stamina test, and I suppose in the end outstay them on what will be very attritional conditions. And like I say, it's more money in the bag for what is the absolute aim of their season for Dan to be champion trainer.
And Lee, finally.
Yeah, look, I'll just kind of summarise the lads. I think, like Dan says, very well handicapped, dropping back into this company, and there was them glimmers of hope. The last day, Larry's Bar is a solid yardstick, and I think, look, like Charlie says, they're going for the title, get more money in the satchel, and I thought it was a fair play in this type of race, but just a tentative selection, I would have said.
Done as far as the live racing goes. So any other bets now? We'll just go in order that I've got in front of me. I'm going to chance Brave Kingdom in the 248 at Utoxeter, just on the prices, 13.0. I think he'll go off a good bit shorter than that. Obviously, ran in the Mandarin last time, didn't really settle. That was the first start for a little while, so that's what I'm putting it down to. But I think we'll fare much better here. And Bryony Frost, I think I will get somewhere with him. I think he wants that sort of potentially quite attacking ride that she'll go and give him as well. And this is an easier race, I thought, than last time. So massive price in that 248 Utoxeter Brave Kingdom for me. Charlie.
Yeah, Hillcrest in the 410 at Newbury, the novice handicap chase. Look, he was very talented hurdler, as we all know, then off an awfully long time, and it's been underwhelming, I suppose, over fences. But for all that, I thought the run behind Trelawn in his first start back was fine, and he was going okay at Foss last. He unseated too far out when it wasn't his fault to know for sure. Handstand's obviously a subsequent Grade 1 winner, and he's got cheap pieces on for the first time. I thought this track might well suit him, big, flat, galloping track. And he's 17.0. Like, off his mark, he's definitely got enough ability to be a major player in this. And yeah, it's kind of, I suppose, one last stab with him. If it doesn't work out tomorrow, it's difficult to see where they're going with him, certainly over fences.
Jake says Sergino non-runner. I don't know if that. Well, it must be the case because he's not just going to wind us up. That's tragic.
Yeah, Nicky's just put a statement on Twitter regarding it. So he should be back in kind of work by the end of next week, but it leaves a bit of an issue in where they go. The Pendle at Kempton could potentially be 1 over 2.5, or there's a new race at Bangor on the 26th over 2 miles. So yeah, it's just a bit of a conundrum now as to where they go from here, which shakes things up a bit, I say. It's not ideal prep.
Yeah. Nicky must just love the run up to Cheltenham.
Oh. The only thing we can be grateful for is that this wasn't a printed out bit of paper. This was actually just a normal tweet. So that's kind of he's diverged from his usual MO there, but yeah, not ideal. At least it wasn't a gallop.
No, that's true. That's true. Okay, thanks for that, Jake. Very good. Where do we get to? Dan, other bets on the day? You've got a few.
Yeah, a few of interest. The 130 at Warwick, Celtic Art for Jeremy Scott, who I generally think runners have been needing at least a couple to get really going. Derrington looked in need of it last time out. Much better next time. He's now £2 below his last winning mark. He generally races prominently, which will very much suit the track. And in opposition, I think there are some flashier profiles, but I'd call them patchy profiles as well. A lot of first-time wind-ups flying around. So as much as there are some unexposed types in here, I wouldn't be sure how ready they are for this or how they'll perform. Whereas I think Celtic Art's quite a solid proposition. Not priced up currently. The forecast price of him around 15.0, which would make him a very good win and place proposition. Then the 348 at Warwick is Panic Attack. Again, a race full of, I'd say, fairly unreliable types. Those would be probably towards the top end of the handicap mark. And then you've got the likes of Shanar Bob and No Ordinary Joe, who I would say have Cheltenham on the agenda. No Ordinary Joe is very interesting with Callum Pritchard riding. I would suggest it may be Martin Pipe attempt number 3 based on that booking, which would be ambitious, but he's dropping in the handicap again, so you'd have to be of interest to see how he runs here. Panic Attack, on the other hand, has been very well campaigned by the Skelton since moving to the yard. A couple of runs over 2 miles, which have been very much franked by Tour over Lee the other day, then stepped up to 2.5 miles. Her Optimum trip over fences last time out off 125. Bolted up, went up £10 for that. Back over hurdles, where she remains off a mark 125. She's just as effective over hurdles as she is over fences. The Skeltons at Warwick, it's a bit of a cheat code. I think she has a massive chance there. And then Sober Glory in the bumper at Newbury. He seemingly opened at 6.5. I thought that was a massive price. I'd have him favourite, bearing in mind what he's done this season. Won nicely on his seasonal debut, or first start actually under rules, for beating a well-backed horse of Dan Skelton's on debut at Chepstow. 17 lengths clear of the rest. The third has since finished 8 lengths behind No Drama This End, who's obviously been very well touted. Then went to Exeter under a penalty in what looked a weaker race. But the fifth came out and won the listed bumper at Sandown last weekend. And the Skelton horse, who was second at Chepstow, was actually the odds-on favourite for it. Paints all that form in quite a good light, yard in form. And Michael Nolan gave an interview and gave this guy a really good mention. Said he's probably the classiest horse he's ridden, which is a pretty bold statement to make. So the fact that he's not favourite for this race did somewhat surprise me. So at 6.5, I thought he was definitely worthy of a bet.
Lee.
Yeah, I'm against Charlie, I'm afraid, in the 410 there. I think Heracles Westwood has got room, only nudged up a few pound there from the Windsor win. Jumped well, the team's in good form. I think he's got room for more, and he gets the weight in this race. And I do like Bella Capella in the last race at Newcastle. Look, I've kept my eye in the all-weather. I go to Newcastle about 6 times a week for this all-weather. Bella Capella, 2 runs ago, bumped into one who's won a couple of times since. And then last time out, just didn't get the gaps, just denied at the line. I think can go in. It has dropped way down the handicap. This is the time to get on. I would have said Bella Capella in the last race at Newcastle at 7 o'clock.
All right, that's us done for other bets on the day. Matchbook Zero long shot now. Reminder that goes live an hour before each race. It's the best way of taking advantage of likely enhanced odds, because there's zero margin, zero commission. So win bet only, head there. Mine is Go Dante 34.0. Charlie.
Same race, but you were in first. But Josh the Boss, for me, just a different angle. He'll be up there. Chepstow return was very good. Beating Doyen Quest. Disappointed at Haydock when he's made favourite, but I think the ground was probably too slow for him. Drop back and trip. I think he looks like he's got bag to toe. And yeah, I thought he was interesting at 17.0. He's 20. Well, he's 17.0 now on my computer. He's 21.0 earlier.
Dan.
I'll go with Celtic Art in the 130 at Warwick. I think it'll be a big price against some flashier profiles, but I wouldn't be sure they're quite solid.
Lee.
Yeah, the 4.6s, I think, overpriced, 26.0 winning place. I think that's it's a great shout at 26.0. But yeah, 150 at Newbury.
All right, and then we've got no lays. So best bet, Smarty Wild for me in the veterans, 9.0. Charlie.
I can't wait to see Dan's face. Brave man's game in the Denman. Come on.
Of all the races, of all the horses, I never thought I'd see the day.
Best bet. I mean, there's options as well, and that's what he's gone for. Dan.
I'll go to Panic Attack, the 348 at Warwick.
And Lee.
Galam also across at Warwick. I think she can win on return and take this listed race for a Group 1 winner.
Good stuff. Thanks, everyone. Enjoyed that. Lee, Dan, Charlie, well done. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and everyone for contributing as well. Head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all of our selections and the prices when we put them up. Hopefully, you all have a good weekend. Bye-bye.